Hello, brothers and sisters. We are here at Ascension and we have a visit again. And today we are with an awesome person. And she has so many stories about Ascension and Gaithersburg and like everything around here. And today is with us Betty. How are you, Betty?
I'm well, thank you.
Thank you for being here.
You're welcome, thank you.
So we are doing these like interviews to get to know better like parishioners and
Right.
people from the church, and we would like to know your story. Could you tell us a little bit about it, like how you came to Gaithersburg? Where are you from? Your name, like things like that. Introduce
Now
yourself.
this is a long life you're talking about. It's going to take a while. I was born and raised in Philadelphia, and my family were churchgoers, but not Episcopalian. And my father saw to it that I gave money from my little, I saw Mary Waldron talk about that one day when you were interviewing her. My father made sure that from my little tiny allowance, I knew that I had to give some to the church. And when I was really young, my godmother took me to Sunday school. And then, because not very many people had cars in those days, I was born in 1926. And we lived in a neighborhood where there wasn't a church that we could walk to, which bothered my dad a lot. But we moved when I was about 10. And there was a congregational church right at the corner. And it was a very happy time for my mother because mother could walk and do all the ladies' things, She always contributed to the suppers and everything. And that's where I really went to Sunday school regularly. Now I don't think they call the congregational church that anymore. I think they call it Unitarian or something like that.
Yeah, I think so.
But they gave me a good background anyway. And when I was 16, we moved to a different neighborhood. In the city, we're moving on up, like that TV show used to say. And we were Presbyterian, which is what my father was raised as. And, I went to a Presbyterian college. And I married quite young to a boy that had just gotten back from World War II. He had been a pilot in the war, and I married quite young, at 20. I don't advise that. And after he finished veterinary school, we moved to Maryland. Big city girl going way down to the country it was. There was nothing in Gaithersburg except dairy farms. More cows than people. And he was the only veterinarian who was taking care of all of the cows. And it was a very happy time for a while. I had 2 little girls at that time as well. They were both born in Frederick. And unfortunately, he developed alcoholism. And it was a sad time in my life. And I had been singing in a Gaithersburg community chorus. And Harry Dalzell and his wife were both singing in that chorus. And we partied together and we knew each other socially. And he had been very observant about what was happening in my life, and he knew that it was not a good time. And he even though he was not my priest yet. And I decided, why don't I try Harry's church? I was singing in the Methodist church because I could walk to it. It was around the corner from our house, right in the heart of Gaithersburg. And so I walked in the chapel, and I thought, this is where I should have been forever. And I don't know what it was, but it hit me like, this is Harry's church, but this is where I belong. The people were wonderful. They were all, and Gaithersburg was such a tiny town then that everybody knew everybody, and everybody knew the problem that I was having as a result of Bob's problem. And incidentally, I had to divorce him, but he died when he was only 48 years old, which is very sad, yeah. And my girls loved him, and so did I. And then I met my second husband in the choir. And his name was Ray Knight, and he sang very low bass. And we had a good life together, and we both enjoyed Ascension. He had always been an Episcopalian, and it was so nice to have somebody to come to church with, I like that. And I joined the choir pretty quickly, and I've been singing there for 56 years.
56.
56 years. I've been in the church for a couple years longer than that because I came and didn't sing right away, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that I had to donate to the church to keep it going and to keep, and of course at that time, in a few years, we started talking about having to build a church at this building. And that was a wonderful experience. I think everyone who was interested had pledged for a 3-year contract almost, you know, to give that much money for 3 years to do the
To have
building.
this building.
The right. And I think it was 1982 when this building was built. And everybody was very thrilled to be in such a big, and we needed it then too because we had gotten quite crowded in the chapel. I still love the chapel, but this church is just beautiful. And I have done more things when I was younger. I have been in the vestry, and I've been on committees, and I've done all kinds of things, always singing in the choir though. And I know that once you get involved in the church and with the people, you have to keep it going, and therefore I've been pledging all this time. It's grown a little bit more than it used to be when I had nothing. And I'm very happy here.
And how many rectors at the church
Well,
have you met?
Harry, I remember very clearly, I was in the vestry at the time that Harry died. And I got a phone call from Ian Craig, who was the senior warden at the time, that Harry had been killed, had died in an automobile. And I cried for days and days because he had really been my savior. He had done so much for me. And then there were some associates whose names escape me right now, but Bill Smalley was here when Ray died. My husband's been gone for 30 years, and Bill was the rector then, and he too was very, very caring person. When I had breast cancer, Joe Clark stayed with my 2 girls in the room waiting for me to come to. And there's always been somebody from the church in my life, it seems, you know. And I did yoga with Randy, and he's been wonderful. I enjoyed Randy. And I like this new guy too, this
he's
Javier.
nice, right?
Yeah. He'll do.
Yeah.
They've all been kind to me. You know?
Yeah. Do you have some like good stories from the church, like something funny that you like experience here?
Well, there've been lots of funny things, but in the chapel, which was so small, everybody could see everything, you know. And we had an Englishman who was the organist, and the organ in the chapel was down on the floor, the main floor. It was the electronic organ there, and then the choir, which was sometimes as big as 10 people, but most often it was less than that, was sitting on the floor too, and the pews on the floor facing the organ. And Humphrey always had a hole in his sock, and he didn't have organ shoes. He played in his feet, and you could always see his toes sticking out of his black socks. And we tried to tell him that at least he should wear socks that didn't have holes in them, you know. But we did a lot of funny things, and they kept trying to make more room because when I first came to the chapel, there was only room for 7 people to take communion across that small space. And they decided they would have to bring the altar rail down. I mean, the altar forward and the railing with the benches for kneeling wider. So they made it as wide as the church. And then many more people could take communion. And they moved where the entrance to is it the narthex where you get dressed? No, that's not called.
The sacristy.
Yes, the sacristy. That wasn't there. It was quite different architecturally. It was different. And the choir sat up there, facing the altar actually. And there, as I said, that the choir grew too. Vern Casey, do you remember Werner? Has he?
I think so. Yeah.
Well, was in the choir, and my husband was in the choir, and there were quite a few people that are here now, and it was very different. And very pleasant. We all enjoyed it. And people were so kind and nice. You know, maybe you've heard people refer to a lady named Grandma Carol. Her name was Carol Diamond, and Diamond Avenue was named for her family, for her husband's family. They had a farm, so I knew her well because I knew all of the farmers. And
for obvious reasons.
Right. And I was always I took care of the telephone in the practice. And if I wasn't in church on any Sunday, I could tell Monday she would be at the door saying, "Are you okay?" You know, and that's the way the people were. You know, everybody noticed if people weren't there and so forth. And as I said, all of the priests have always been very kind to me. Bill Smalley left right after Ray died, and I remember him. He was taking. I had something done on my head that had to have a new bandage put on it, and Bill did it for me. I mean, he cleaned it and did it, and then he told me he was going to be leaving, and I said, you know, there's too many people leaving. But I've always been very happy here, obviously, or I would not have stayed.
Right.
I've watched other people come and go, you know, and
are you the longest parishioner at the Ascension?
I
Do you
think
so?
I might be. I'm not certain about that, but the Neils were here, and Jerry and Dottie Fadenauer and Fran Spina and Kirk, and they were all in the chapel. I don't know that they were all there when I first went to the chapel, but most of the people, unfortunately, that I knew that we worshiped together in the chapel have passed away.
Yeah.
And that has happened to me in my life from every corner. I'm losing people, including my family. My sister passed away at 95, and my nephew, her son, her oldest son, who I was quite close to because I used to babysit for him when he was little, and he said, "You're the matriarch now, Aunt Betty," and I said, "What does that mean?" And does a perk come with that? And he said, "Yes, you can pick out your own the seat at the Thanksgiving table." And I said, "I do that anyway." But I've had a very good life. I've had, you know, ups and downs like everyone else, but I'm up.
And thank you for everything you do for
You are
Ascension, because you keep doing, even when you said like you don't do too much.
Well,
I see you
I
like
try.
everywhere around here.
I participate if it doesn't involve too many night meetings.
I know, right? Thank you for being here, and
Well,
thank you
you're very
for
welcome. Thank you
telling
for
us your
having
story.
me.
And it's always a pleasure to see you. And we have our tradition to hug each other as many times as we see each other
That's
during
right.
Sunday.
That's right.
And thank you for everything.
You
And,
are very welcome. I
Thank you.
appreciate what you do.
I appreciate what you do. Thank you, and thank you for being with us today. If you like the video, remember to push the share button below so more people can watch our video. And thank you. Have a great day.